Hello and welcome to IGD's Ultimate UTC RFP Bootcamp. We're so glad you're joining us. We are putting together a free 3-part series for academic institutions that are proposing for the 2016 UTC competition. And today we are going to talk about branding your center. And the number one reason why it is so important to brand your center in your UTC RFP is competitive advantage. The individuals who are reviewing your proposals have a million things going on. They're going to get a stack of these proposals, and yours has to be memorable to stand above the crowd. And don't get me wrong, the technical merit, all the components have to be there. But what really separates the men from the boys, the women from the girls, is that professional approach to understanding the public impact and the perception and perceived value, what you're bringing to the table, and you really want it to be memorable. So number one, most important reason to brand your center, competitive advantage. This is probably the most competitive UTC competition on record, and also probably one of the most high stakes. So, everything you can do to help your center stand out and show its professionalism, the better off you're going to be in the competition. Second of all, brand value. When your reviewers are reading your proposal, they need to see your center as a sustainable asset. The challenges that our infrastructure is facing, which is no news to you, is probably the greatest of our time. We've got aging infrastructure combined with stuff that used to be on Star Trek becoming a reality. And so, when they read through your center and they look at it, they need to understand and realize that you're bringing to the table something that's really going to serve the public and serve the community as a whole. And number 3, branding your center now is going to avoid complications, cost, and headaches later. So if you go into the center and you just kind of go and say, oh, I'm just going to call it the yada, yada, yada. And you get into it and then you get it, oh, congratulations, you get it funded, fantastic. And then you you start actually using it and you're like, nobody can say it. Nobody understands what it means, or it's really awkward, or oh, we didn't realize we're duplicating somebody else's already has this center name. So I've seen it, when you're trying to rebrand a center, you're trying to change a name or a program or so on and so forth. After the grant has been awarded, it's just a headache and it's not worth it. So taking some time now while you're developing your proposal, when your partnerships are fresh and exciting, is the time to really address this, and it's going to give your UTC proposal really the best value that you can, and also make sure that yours sticks out in that pile of proposals on your reviewer's desk. So a little bit about myself as we get started in the training. I have a bachelor's degree in business administration and a master's degree in public administration. So I took this kind of balance of public and private and worked as a University Transportation Center manager for 10 years in a regional UTC, working with over 100 faculty from 13 different disciplines, 8 university partnership, just a really complex structure in our organization. And then also the past 3 years started my own company, IGD, and we've worked with Federal Highway, the Federal Transit Administration, several state DOTs, universities, community colleges. We have some projects with the military. We work with the sub on some consulting firms, and also do some work with private industry. And so taking this perspective of being inside the UTC, but also working with these various agencies from the outside, we have a really multidisciplinary perspective and approach, and also very successful programs when it comes to outreach. Also, I'm a member of the TRB Conduct of Research Committee, and served through the ARPTA Young Executive Leadership Committee. So just bring a lot of perspective and experience to the table in helping you navigate some of these questions if you're new to the UTC program, or just want to listen on for the next couple of minutes. All right, so now let's talk about naming your center, because really at the heart of the brand at this point is really the name. So making sure that you can say it in one breath, so the name of your center in one breath, is critical. And it also is a bonus if it's easy to remember. There's some great center names out there, and I'm not going to name them at this time, but there's some great center names out there that have some pretty clever meaning to them that have been successful in the past. Also, be careful with your geographic terms. So if you particularly are a Tier 1 center, if some of your faculty are not in the kind of the region that you are directly, that can be kind of awkward. So if I'm, let's say, a faculty member from California and I'm a member of the Eastern yada, 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 people just kind of go, what? How's that work? So, try to avoid geographic terms. I'd say unless you're a regional center, that would be, I'd say, your exclusion, because then obviously you do want to tie yourself to that region. However, not mandatory, obviously, but just kind of be careful, because many people view Southern different or Northern different, or so on and so forth. So just try and avoid those as a best practice. Also, avoid words that are difficult to spell. It's very common for reporters to make mistakes, or when people are writing it, and if it's difficult for individuals to spell, what's going to end up happening is you're going to get lots of typos, lots of autocorrect to the wrong thing, and so just kind of trying to find a name for your center that is pretty straightforward is important. Also, double check that there are no cultural references that might be offensive or unfit. Sometimes people put these acronyms together based upon very well-meaning terms, and then they put it out there and they get it on their material and they go, whoa, I did not mean it to come across like that. One of the classic examples that they always give in marketing is, for example, the Chevy Nova. And it didn't take off in Mexico, and you wonder why. Nova, no go. So I'm not going to buy the Chevy no go car. So trying to keep the names of the centers out of the training for neutrality purposes, but just trying to say those best practices. Make sure it's easy to say in one breath. You avoid those geographic terms. Keep words that are easy to spell to avoid those headaches in the long run. And then double check making sure there's no cultural references that's going to be offensive or potentially unfit when you're rolling out your outreach efforts. Okay, so now let's talk about crafting your center name and how one would go about doing this. So if you are the UTC director that is going to be responsible for leading this center, or you are the group of PIs who are going to be jointly developing this name, I would recommend just taking 30 minutes is really all this would take. Take 30 minutes, shut off your phones or silent your phones, shut your email, close the door, grab a beer, whatever. But spend 30 minutes and just think about the name of the organization. So brainstorming, there's 3 different ways that you can come up with names, or there's obviously much more, but there's 3 kind of more prominent acronyms. This is probably the most utilized in the UTC community, but to come up with acronyms that represent your center. There are 2 really great online tools that you can do this with, where you can plug in kind of these common terms and these buzzwords that you're looking, and it will come up with a whole host of arrangements for that in an acronym. You can also name your center after a legend, as I like to call it, in the transportation community, or maybe within the certain university individual who is very prominent, or maybe the guy in matching funds donor, whatever it may be, to identify and signify the name of your center with somebody who's been historically involved with the transportation community. Also, you can also look at something arbitrary or what they consider fanciful. This is not super common in the UTC community, however, it is becoming more and more common in the private sector. So if you look at Uber and Xerox and Geico and Johnson & Johnson, Nike, these things aren't necessarily an acronym for anything, but you can pick them out of the crowd. And so, there's nothing against naming your center a term that is arbitrary or fanciful. Now, once you have your names, and maybe you have a few of each, or you just really wanted to go one direction, what I would suggest is, shopping it around. Thinking about your group and your sense of collaboration with your team, whether it be your internal staff or your partner institutions, is to kind of say, okay, well, here's a couple of my ideas. Feel free to submit your ideas, or if you just want to say, well, here's my ideas, let me know which one you like the best, or if you have any variations. But really, helping establish that sense of group leadership, that accountability, and also the ownership of your center name. That voting process is important. So, kind of put together your thoughts in terms of what you would like to see, and then, let the majority rule or come to a consensus. So that is kind of a quick 2-step process in coming up with that name. All right, now let's talk about the usability of your center name. So you must be able to use it in a sentence, both the acronym or, whatever the fanciful name or the legend name, and like the full component. So, many times there's like a short word that will describe the center, that consists of an acronym or a legend or a fanciful name. And then there is the da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And sometimes it is so long and so hard to say that I see come up predominantly if you are a new center, to try and get it all in there. What do you stand for? Everything. No. You have to be able to say it in a sentence and have somebody repeat it back and not kind of come out confused. So make sure you can use it in a sentence. So those ideas that you came up with in your brainstorming before you shop them out to vote on or to get consensus on, is use them in some of the sentences. According to the director of yada, 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 the research is supposed to. So, this is putting in the context of you're promoting your research in maybe a press release, okay? Now, another sentence that you would want to use your draft names in is, I'm going to the training that the name of your center, quote, unquote, advertised at the conference. So, making sure that if I'm a State Department of Transportation member or I'm a graduate student or whatever, you can say this sentence and it just flows naturally. Another one, you're going to be looking at K-12 outreach. My daughter is going to a summer camp at the name of your center. So, really try and use this in a variety of sentences, and, maybe even, ask a whole host of variety of folks. So maybe not just individuals in your center when you're coming up with this name, but also maybe approach, faculty from other disciplines, neighbors, people at the drive-through window, whatever, but just get some outside perspective, because it's very easy to come up with groupthink when you're looking at this and you're going, oh yeah, this is great. We're all on the same page. We're all engineers. We're thinking about this the same. But, potentially getting some of the, multidisciplinary folks out there, and folks at, PhD level, but also maybe, the freshmen in college, maybe pour it out to one of your classes to kind of have them help pick. So, nonetheless, just make sure when you create those acronyms and the names of your centers that you can use it in a sentence. So just a little bit, kind of expanded on that here. All right, some more important things to keep in mind when you're coming up with your center name and your center brand is that you're going to need to use it with all your partner academic institutions' names and acronyms. So just be careful when you put the two acronyms together, or you put them all in a row or whatnot, that you don't end up with any misfortunate combinations. That's all I'm going to say there. You're also going to need to say it with the United States Department of Transportation, or USDOT. So as you're kind of, going through that, make sure that that echoes or that resonates. You're going to need to develop a website URL to accompany the center. And so you're probably going to have something hosted within your lead institution's academic program, but I would strongly urge you to come up with a .com or a .org that would redirect to that. But nonetheless, Google the name of whatever your top couple choices are to make sure when you Google that you don't end up with something completely off the wall, and also that you're going to be able to send people to your website address, and when they go online and they Google it, they find what they're looking for. Also keep in mind you're going to need to come up with social media accounts to complement this outreach. So using Twitter, Facebook, SlideShare, whatever. As you are coming up with this acronym, you're going to need to be able to do yada yada, on Twitter or within the Facebook page. So just a couple quick notes here about these components when you're developing that center. All right, so you have your name of your center. Now that it's been voted on, the consensus has been drawn. Now let's create something graphical to go along with it so that will make it memorable. Particularly, you're going to have proposal reviewers that are visual learners or remember things visually. So it's very important that not only you have a name, but also something visually to differentiate your center. When it comes to creation of the logo, simple is better. You're going to be shrinking this to go at the bottom of a report. You're going to be blowing it up to be putting on a PowerPoint, but something that's very simple is really going to be more memorable than something that's really complicated and you're trying to tie in too many things. And it's also pretty much the trend right now if you're looking at logo design and development. Now, word of caution, some universities have no problem with every center creating logos and doing their own press releases and creating their own media buzz. Others, that's not allowed. In some institutions, the vice chancellor's office will shut down your press release or your media, your outreach, and you certainly don't want this going to the Office of Sponsored Programs or Program Development, whatever it's called, and them to see that and then say, no, you have to remove this. So always double check before you traverse down this path, but just kind of word to the wise, if you have not done this before, you're not sure, just double check. Always to better be safe than sorry. You may be able to, if you are not able to do a logo, do what's called a text treatment, where you're able to maybe color the text and add a shadow and maybe create, some simple graphic that would always be next to the text. So it looks logo-esque, but it doesn't necessarily compete with whatever academic institution. One of the things also is, when you're creating your design, if you're a faculty member or administrative staff person who's writing this proposal or researcher, your time is probably not going to be best spent creating these graphics or these designs, and outsourcing them or delegating this to somebody else so you can focus on the technical component is a much better fit. So some academic institutions or partnerships have in-house expertise. Maybe this is something, if you have a consulting firm that's partnering with you, maybe they can chip in and help you with this. But if you have in-house expertise, that's fantastic. However, a good portion of folks probably listening do not have a graphic designer on staff, or if they do have a graphic designer, they're backed up and they've got 10 other things or 100 other things on their plate. And 6 weeks is, you're not going to get it back in time, or however many weeks is left when you're watching this. So, having something that's well designed and done by a professional is very important. One of the things I just kind of wanted to throw out there is there's a new kind of website out there, a program called 99 Designs. And basically what it is there's a pool of, I think, 1.3 million developers all over the world that are graphic design experts, and they compete for your business as freelance designers. So you go online and you say, I want 5 options, or I want 20 options to look at based upon expertise and your budget, and they, based upon your information, so let's say you're about bridges and whatever other buzzwords you're going to put next to that related to your research topic, and my colors are yada yada yada, and by the way, my partner's colors are also these. Institutions maybe even give them the links to the website, and we need a logo for this. Now, with that information, they'll bid it out to a bunch of people, and based upon the amount of budget you gave them, they'll come back with a bunch of designs, and you can work with them to kind of tweak it and pick one for you. So this has been very, very popular in the media community, and has a great product reputation. So I would strongly encourage you to check out their website as well. I'm not getting any commission out of this. I've just found it very, very beneficial if you're looking for graphic design support that's amazing on the dime. And that also is able to turn something around very quickly. All right, home stretch. Is branding really important? So, again, just to reemphasize this, if the name of your center can't be remembered after you have written the proposal yourself or your team members, will the reviewers be able to? Again, these reviewers are going to be national experts, and they're going to have a bunch of these sitting on their desk, and there's going to be a lot of really amazing proposals. And with that information, that competitive advantage, that being able to be memorable is so important. And so making sure that you can say and remember the name of your center very easily is key. Also, the media is going to be a major success factor for the upcoming centers. The outreach that is going to be anticipated for all of these centers is just higher, at a higher level than I've seen in past UTC proposal requests for proposals. So your research outcomes are going to be huge and expect to be documented in tons of press and coverage and innovation. Your education programs, your training programs, you're going to need to go out there and talk with parents and students and professionals and young professionals, and being able to have that attraction and that excitement when it comes to the name of your center is going to be important. Your technology transfer, again, you're going to need something that's innovative to drive home the fact of where your center is coming from. And it's the first impression that anyone has with your center. So whether that be somebody who's, say, at a conference giving a presentation saying this research was conducted by the name of your center, or even, looking at the immediate future when your reviewers are looking at the proposal, that is literally the first thing on the cover page is the name of your center. And so you're going to want that first impression to be strong and exciting and interesting, and to leave that memorable impression with those reviewers. So branding is just very important, and it's something simple that can be done. It doesn't take a lot of time, it doesn't take a lot of money, but when it comes to, like I said, that competitive advantage is going to be really important. Well, thank you so much for joining us for the first part of our mini-series on the Ultimate UTC RFP Bootcamp. Our next training is going to look at collecting key proposal data. So what is the master list of information that you can collect now, weeks in advance of developing that proposal and those statistics? Believe me, I have been there. It's a week or a couple days before that proposal is due, and you're rereading the RFP and you're going, I have to pull all of this information together, and you burn every IOU begging people to give you this information at the last minute. Save yourself those IOUs. You're going to need it for something else. But get this data now and start requesting this from folks ahead of time. And so our next training is going to look at all the information, that the data and the stats that you might want to pull based upon the RFP, and some of the clues, and also looking at the metrics that they're already asking you to collect. So there's some hidden gems in there. Also, we're going to talk about common shortcuts on where to find that information. Many times there's institutional databases that are required for federal reporting purposes that faculty and staff have no idea exist. So we're going to talk about those kind of easy button places to find that information. And then with that, we are going to be giving away a downloadable Excel file that you can adjust, craft, tweak based upon kind of your proposal, your secret sauce, whatever you're putting in there. But basically we're helping you get that data collection tool started. I hope you join us for our next mini training series on collecting key proposal data, and thank you so much for attending. if you have any questions or comments about our training today, please contact us. We love feedback at IGD. That's what we live for. So I strongly encourage you, if you have any questions about the UTC RFP, or if you have any comments about branding your center or training today, please don't hesitate to contact us. Our office phone number and my email address is listed there, and I'd love to hear from you. So have a great day, and I hope to see you at our next training series. Thank you so much.